But I think both players have kept their 7. It looks like they're ready to go, so we're ready whenever they are.
Yeah, I'll give you a little rundown of Raheem's deck list while they wait. We have Desecration Demons, Aristocrats, and Blood Artist. Olivia Valdarn, only one of her though. Diregraph Ghouls, Grave Crawlers. The combo tandem that we haven't seen much of for months.
Right.
Knights of Infamy.
And then 2 Liliana of the Veil. That's a
Liliana.
spicy one. But I'm ready to see the Lord of Rides come down for a little party time.
I can't wait.
All right, Blood Crypt to start it off. Raheem's going to be on the play, which is pretty significant for a zombie deck, especially because like the longer he gives Jacob Hardy to set up the board, the more easily stuff he starts dominating the board. The Lingering Souls, Intangible Virtue, things like that. One card that's really good out of Raheem's deck against this matchup, though, is Blood Artist. If creatures start trading in combat, Raheem's going to gain a lot of life, and both players have a lot of creatures in their deck.
Yeah, interesting that Raheem doesn't have a 1-drop, doesn't have a 2-drop. He must have a...
Well, he has a 1-drop. It's just coming down on turn 3.
Interesting.
So, I mean, maybe he kept a removal-heavy hand with a couple 4-drops. Hopefully, he plays like a Falconwrath Aristocrat or maybe a Desecration Demon next turn and really starts to put the pressure on. So, the trigger is going to go on the stack here. I think it's going to get Searing Speared, although it might just get Pillar Flame. I don't... Or Sin Collector might just take Pillar Flame. I'm not sure. All right, so we got a Liliana, a Spear... I guess that's a Pillar of Flame.
Wow, I'm a little surprised that...
he didn't Searing Spear in response.
Well, I'm a little surprised he didn't play the Liliana on his own turn, too, and just up it.
That's possible, but he did see green and white from his opponent. He could have been afraid of a Luxodon Smiter, which is fairly common out of, like, the green base decks that don't have Grizzly Salvage and Mulch.
Yeah.
So he does take... I guess he takes Pillar Flame, and then his guy gets Searing Speared. Is that what happened?
Yeah, interesting. So Raheem only left with a pair of Lilianas here.
Yep. I think he had a land too, but drawing in 2. Is that the Lord of the Riots?
I think that's the Lord himself.
He's only got 1 red mana.
Yeah, Lord of the Riots a little hard to support. Raheem only has 12 red sources rather.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, bro. Takesies backsies, if you will. All right, there we go. All right, so I feel like he's gonna +1 it here. He saw the Sin Collector. He probably assumes he's on some sort of junk deck. Ooh, opposite pass. Yeah, he did say go. So he just is using it as a suspended Diabolic Edict, if you will.
Yeah.
He doesn't really want to tick up and lose either of his other cards. The Lord of Riots, if he is able to attack for 2 next turn, assuming there's not a whole lot going on Jacob's side. But there's a Garruk Relentless, so...
Garruk Relentless comes down. Not really a good matchup for Liliana, the Relentless, but luckily he has a Grave Crawler to threaten it a little bit.
Right. So I think it's interesting to see what he's going to do here. So if he makes a wolf, the Liliana can tick down, and then he can just attack Garruk. But if he just fights the Gravecrawler, it's basically the same thing, except the Liliana stays at 3. So if he had just made a wolf, it would have been the same situation as he has now, except the Liliana would be at 1 instead of 3.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised that he just wouldn't +1 Liliana. He doesn't really have need of the 5th land here.
Yeah, not to mention the extra Liliana might not be that relevant. And now the Lord of Rise is actually basically dead in his hand, since he has to deal damage to his opponent before he can play it. So
yeah, now if Raheem took my line and just played a Liliana on turn 3 and just been plussing it this whole time, it would be at 5 right now.
Yeah,
6 right
potentially
now?
threatening ultimate.
Yeah, it would be at 6 right now, threatening the ultimate.
Yeah, but we're just going to start churning out some wolves here with Garruk, and we played a Tristani, so we're going to gain some life. It's not looking very good for Raheem.
No, Raheem needs a creature badly. Any creature. Any creature is fine.
Red Black Wizard needs creatures badly. Alright, so finally an activation from Liliana. Gerald's Messenger, going to drain for 2. Looks like that Liliana is not long for this world. Although he does know he has the second Liliana in hand, so it's possible that he just wants to use Populate on Tristani to generate more creatures. He doesn't really care about the Liliana at 1 counter.
So Gerald's Messenger for Raheem and a replaying of the Gravecrawler from the yard.
Yep, and it actually looks like Jacob is a little bit land heavy himself. I think he has a Celestian Charm and a Rootborne Defenses, but then 2 more lands to go with the 6 in play. But the active Garruk and active Tristani is going to be pretty tough for these ground pounders to get through. If Raheem's able to draw a Falconwrath Aristocrat, maybe he can kill the Garruk and then potentially start, taking control of the game. The Rakdos Lord of Rights, unfortunately, is going to die to Celestian Charm, should it ever come down. but we're battling here.
Well, I wonder. I have to imagine they're attacking Garrick.
It's possible. I mean, this attack seems a bit rushed because he could just populate the Death Touch Wolf, and then block, and everything's okay. I guess it seems like he drew a Tragic Slip because he's tapping 1 black mana. It's if he hits the Death Touch Wolf, then there's nothing to populate. So it might have been a little bit of a bluff there. Not sure. Or he can just let damage happen and then Tragic Slip the Tristani, which seems like a reasonable play as well.
Yeah, a lot of options with the Tragic Slip here. Oh, okay.
Oh, Rootborn Defenses. So we get to populate the wolf again.
So if you don't know Rootborn Defenses, all Jacob's creatures are indestructible, and he gets to populate. So he's going to have 3 wolves and a Tristani at the end of this combat.
Yep, and not bad. Although the Tristani is still going to die to the Tragic Slip, since Tragic Slip doesn't deal damage, it's just a negative, and the state-based effects will kill it, since Raheem's creatures are going to be dying in combat.
Right, the Messenger will come back. Messenger will drain Jacob for 2 more, bring him to 17.
Still pretty healthy life total.
Yeah, it is, especially against a zombie deck that has a lot of 1-drops. Here comes the slip to keep this game in check, keep Raheem in the game.
Alright, and there's a Tragic Slip for the Tristani. Still can't cast the Lord of Riots, and still doesn't want to take up Liliana, but gonna replay that Gravecrawler. But I feel like it's still gonna be pretty hard for him to win. Okay, so he did decide to take up the Liliana. I can't see exactly what he discarded. I think he discarded the Rakdos, yeah. So now he's got another Liliana in hand. The Liliana should be at 2, though, if he did activate it, which it looks like he did.
Yep, we'll make sure that gets changed for you. He didn't miss anything. He just forgot to pick it up.
Yeah, it wasn't like a mistrigger.
Right. So Jacob Hardy's main phase. He'll make another wolf. Garrick now on 4 counters.
Almost threatening overrun.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he didn't go search out a creature, especially since he drew.
Well, he doesn't actually have that many actual creatures in his deck. Like, if he sacked a token, he could go get a Voice of Resurgence or Sin Collector.
Oh, wow.
He knows that the last card in Raheem's hand is a Liliana the Veil, so there's no real reason. I mean, you just basically want to tick up Garrick to the point where you have enough wolves in play to protect your life total and potentially threaten to, overrun your opponent in a turn or 2. So Raheem's gonna Edict, get rid of one of the wolves, play a second Liliana. Probably make him Edict again, but it's not really matching up too well against that Garrick Relentless.
No, Raheem needs to deal with that Relentless. He needs, he needs an Aristocrat. Is really what it is.
And this is a pretty good play from Raheem. Like, he's not going all in trying to kill the Garrick, but he is willing to attack Garrick for 2. If Jacob wants to trade off with a wolf token, he just gets to replay the Gravecrawler. So
Jacob lets it tick down to 2.
Yeah, top deck's a Lingering Souls. This one's going to be pretty good. With the flashback, it's going to give him a nice Air Force, and he's going to be able to tick up his Garrick to 3 this time. And then next turn, he's only got 1 creature in the graveyard. No, he has 2. He has a Sin Collector and a Tristani. So there is that threat looming over Raheem.
Yeah, he only needs to get 1 more creature in the graveyard before that overrun starts getting really scary.
I mean, a couple attacks from the Spirit tokens too, and then that'll be enough to make the Garrick attack lethal. I mean, that's 12 damage just with the 2 creatures currently in the yard. And then the wolf tokens with the Death Touch and Trample is actually very good as well, because you only have to assign 1 of the Death Touch damage to the blocking creature. And I assume that Jacob's actually just going to trade a wolf here with the Gravecrawler just to make sure Garrick stays at a high enough total.
I saw Jacob move to his pen. I think Raheem might have attacked him. Oh, that's why.
Oh, yeah.
Searing Spear takes out the Garrick.
That's fair.
So Raheem suddenly back in the game now that the Garrick's dead.
Yeah, I mean, you still have the 4 Lingering Souls tokens to deal with. The +1 from Liliana. Raheem has no cards in hand. Jacob's going to make a 2/2, and just start attacking with most of his guys. Probably hold back the 2/2 since the Gerald's Messenger can just eat it, but likely attacking with most everything else. And it looks like he drew Call the Conclave for his draw step for this turn.
All right, not a bad draw. Raheem, though, can go over the top pretty easily. He just needs to draw something like an Olivia, a Desecration Demon, an Aristocrat wouldn't be too bad.
Well, Desecration Demon, probably not going to do that much against the 8 guys in play from Jacob Hardy. But, if it becomes a problem, he can always just sack a creature to tap it.
Right.
All right, so making a Centaur. And let's do it to it. Come on, top deck.
Raheem has a lot of decent draws, none that are really slam dunk out of this world, except Olivia Valdarin.
Yeah, but again, he only has one red source, so it's not going to take over the game immediately. But you know, should he ever draw a second red source, it's going to be pretty good for him. I think an attack here is probably ill-advised, unless he has a good follow-up. You know, Jacob Hardy has the 3/3 Centaur. He can just put it in front of the Gravecrawler, and then the Death Touch Wolf could just trade with the Jarl's Messenger. Yeah, I assume this was like a semi-bluff, just trying to garner a little information to see if he would block with the 3/3.
Yep, no real loss, as he can just replay the Gravecrawler.
Yep, and sends in a bunch of dudes, 9 total damage with Raheem at 16. That's a significant portion of his life total.
And I think Raheem just has to block that Centaur right here.
Oh, he opts to just take it and hope to draw out of it somehow. He doesn't have access to Bonfire of the Damned or anything like that, so pretty bad shape. Victim of Night takes care of a 1/1, and we attack for what seems like not lethal with no cards in hand. And yeah, it looks like Jacob's just going to take the damage here and then attack back for lethal.
Yep, easy enough. There's the scoop. Jacob Hardy takes game 1 on the back of that Garrett Relentless.
Yeah, Garrett Relentless doing a lot of work there. You saw him take out a creature early and then generate a lot of Death Touch Wolves, which was particularly strong against Raheem's draw of very few flyers. You know, it's just mono Jarl's Messengers and Ground Pounders.
Yeah, you know, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I think if Raheem just played a Liliana turn 3, discarded his Gravecrawler, he would have been in a lot better shape.
Yeah, definitely. You know, then he follows it up with a Jarl's Messenger off the top, replays the Gravecrawler, has his Liliana potentially, you know, at ultimate mode in a hurry.
Right.
But, you know, he wanted to get a little pressure into play. I can't fault him, but I definitely think that playing the Liliana was probably a better play in that spot. It's possible also he should have mulliganed. Like, his hand seemed really slow. Just like I think he probably kept like 3 land, 2 Liliana, 2 Searing Spear.
Right.
Or potentially, you know, like something very close to that. You know, he drew an uncastable Rakdos and some other stuff. But let's go and talk about sideboarding before we get to the next game.
Okay, so Raheem, he has another Olivia, which will be coming in for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
He has quite a few more removal spells. He has 2 Pillars, 1 Devour Flesh, 2 Dreadbore. I don't know how many of those he's going to be bringing in, but especially since he lost to the Garrick, I have to imagine the Dreadbore will be coming in.
I think Dreadbore is definitely going to come in. You know, these kind of token decks, they do have a reasonable amount of, like, 4-drop spells. Like, he saw Tristani, you know, he saw Garrick Relentless, but there's also Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, Garrick Primal Hunter, and 4 Advent of the Worm. So Appetite for Brains from Raheem might actually be reasonable. There aren't that many targets, but if he ever hits one of those for 1 mana, I mean, it's not like it's a little tempo downswing because he's spending the mana to do it, but it is only 1 mana to take away a card that could potentially break the game open for Jacob.
Right, especially either of those Garricks, just really, really, really good against the zombie decks.
Yeah. All right, from Jacob, one card that's kind of interesting is Beckon Apparition. He has 3 of those in his sideboard as his anti-graveyard card. And while Black-Red Zombies isn't notorious for that much graveyard interaction, like they have the Undying from Jarl's Messenger, as well as the Gravecrawlers, being able to generate a 1/1 flyer to go along with your intangible virtues while getting a little bit of value from getting rid of like an Undying Jarl's Messenger or something seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and you know that's really the only card in the sideboard that he has any more of than 2 of. Most of them are 1 of.
Yeah,
so
I think he's definitely bringing in the second Tristani. He has one of those on his board, as well as another Garrick Primal Hunter, which might be a little too slow against the Black-Red Zombies, like faster draws. But from what he saw from Raheem in Game 1, his deck didn't seem very fast. So I could definitely see him wanting to bring in a Garrick because his opponent had a bad draw. But that means that Raheem, with a good draw, could just overrun him if Jacob's deck's full of 4 and 5 drops.
Right. He has a Profit Loss in the sideboard, which will be great against Raheem. It'll take out the Gravecrawlers, it'll take out the Blood Artists, the Aristocrats, as well as just pump his own creatures up.
Yeah,
that'll be a game changer.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Profit Loss. That, you know, I was always a big fan of Zealous Persecution when it was in Standard, and you know, it was a great card for the token-based mirrors. But now you see it costs a little more mana, but the fact that you know, you don't really have access to either of those kind of effects at instant speed, except in profit loss, and now you get to play with a similar card. You know, there are a lot of things like Falcon Wrath Aristocrat that just die straight up to the 3 mana part of it, and you know, people were attempting to play Cower and Fear when it was legal. Yeah, I mean, it's still legal, but like, they were attempting to play Cower and Fear for a while before we had access to Golgari Charm. But Golgari Charm hits your guys too, and I could see wanting to have an effect like that that only affects your opponent, which is why I think that Profit Loss should be pretty good here.
Right. Plus, I mean, how can you not sleeve up a card that just says Profit on it?
Yeah.
I'll cast Profit.
Yeah. Step 3.
Profit. Perfect. So here they go. Players laying out their opening hands. Raheem, on your right, will be on the play.
Yeah. So I can see most of Jacob's hand. It looks like he has an Intangible Virtue, some Petal Grove. Looks like a Tristani or 2. I saw 2 gold cards. They look similar. Maybe an Advent of the Worm. But Raheem, they both keep. Raheem starts off with Gravecrawler. Apparently Jacob Party has a Sin Collector in hand. That's not a card I would expect him to really keep in this matchup. Raheem does have, you know, a lot of removal though, so maybe having a way to you know, keep his removal from getting online is important. So
yeah, not so bad. Just seems like a speed bump.
Yeah, Rakdos Guildgate as his second land. A little unfortunate that, you know, you kind of have to play that card when you play double red spells in your zombie deck. But, you know, a necessary evil. An Intangible Virtue on 2 should start the beatings when we get this Lingering Souls active on the next turn.
Looks like Blood Artist drawn for Raheem, so he has some utility. Oh, okay, he does have a Geralf's Messenger.
Yeah, so he's gonna slam Big Papa Geralf. He's gonna send him some emails.
Oh yeah, Jacob Hardy down to 14 now. Raheem's still at 20.
Yep, and this Lingering Soul should stifle the bleeding. However, the Blood Artist is gonna keep the pain coming.
Right.
So like when he plays the Blood Artist next turn, even if he blocks and trades with both guys, the Geralf's Messenger comes back, the Gravecrawler can come back, and he still takes a drain of 4 damage from the Blood Artist alone.
Right, and then 2 from the Messenger, and it's still, even though Jacob blocked both creatures, he's still taking more damage than he would have taken if he didn't block,
right,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So we'll see if Raheem slams the Blood Artist or if he has a better play.
Well, it looks like I can't tell if that's the promo Searing Spear or the promo Pillar Flame. Does he even have Pillar Flame in his deck?
He has a couple on the board, yeah.
Okay, so it could be Pillar Flame, but I'm pretty sure it's Searing Spear, because I thought last game that it was Pillar Flame, but it was just 2 Searing Spears when he got Sin Collector. But here, the situation that we talked about is happening. He can either take 5, or he can block and take 6. So
kind of a loss there.
Yeah. Would you say it's a loss, like from profit loss? See, that was a pun that I couldn't really make because it's just the card's just called loss. So
yeah, maybe you should have saved that one for
rants.
No, I think Raheem profits, Jacob losses.
Sure. Yeah.
Losses? Yeah, that's right. That sounds right. So Jacob takes 6 down to 8.
Yeah, assuming there are no missed triggers. I know Blood Artist is kind of a tricky card that people forget how it works a lot of times, and they'll miss some triggers. But if we could get an update on life totals, that would be great. I know Raheem's at a high life total, and Jacob is somewhere around 8, I think.
Sure, as long as no triggers were missed, it should be 8. We'll check with the table judge for you, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you never want to. I mean, okay, so I think he missed 2 Blood Artist triggers because 4 creatures total died, but it looks like Raheem only counted it twice, since he probably only thought of it for his guys dying,
right,
or you know, something like that. So, like I said, it's a tricky card. You know, like whenever something dies, you know, you have to remember, and you know, I've missed a few myself, so I can't fault him.
Yep, Raheem drawing another land. Looks like another red-black duel.
Alright, well, deciding to attack before giving away information with the land. I feel like there has to be a Celestine Charm or something here, otherwise Jacob is just going to be, you know, in a lot of trouble. Ooh, we have an Abrupt Decay. Wow. That's pretty sweet.
Great play from Jacob. That takes out the Blood Artist, takes out the biggest danger he had.
Yep.
Oh, what is this?
This
is this
looks like, no, this is going to be a Searing Spear on one of the blockers. And this means that Jacob can't double block the Geralf's Messenger. And it also means that you get an extra drain from the Blood Artist before it dies. So Jacob's going to go to 8 life, as long as we remember all the triggers. You're going to see Raheem go up to 22, and then be facing 6 points of damage coming at his face when he's at 8 life.
And that spirit will have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I have to imagine in front of the messenger.
Yeah, I mean, he can prevent... I mean, basically all he has to do is spend one more mana, and replay it, so definitely should just chump block if you decide to block at all.
Right, and that's what he does.
Yep. So Raheem looks like he also has an Olivia Voldaren in hand, which is going to be pretty tough for Jacob to deal with. Sin Collector and Tristani, I don't think is going to get him out of this. Although Tristani does block the Jarls Messenger pretty well. However, a ping for 1 from an Olivia post-combat could take care of the Tristani, assuming that he blocks the Messenger and not the Gravecrawler.
Right, and here it comes. Here comes the Tristani. If Raheem has another land, it's going to go very well for him.
Yeah. Looks like okay. So Raheem just has Victim of Night, so that's just going to be an attack for 6. So Tristani ended up dying to the Victim of Night, and that's the game.
Yeah, Raheem evens the score 1-1.
Yep. So his deck flowed a lot better that time. He had some early pressure, which he was kind of lacking in the first game. I mean, turn through Gravecrawler is not daunting, especially in a deck with Lingering Souls.
Yeah, the Gravecrawler, it's really amazing on turn 1 and really bad on like turn 4.
Yeah. One of my favorite kind of decks to just like brew is the like sacrifice decks, where you have things like Blood Artist working alongside Gravecrawler and Lingering Souls and things like that with like Cartel Aristocrat or Bloodthorn Vampire, or even like 3 colors with Falconwrath Aristocrat. And you can just do some pretty kooky things with Gravecrawler along with some sacrifice outlets. So
yeah,
those are always a lot of fun. Or as our directors point out, or Demon Male Hauberk, which he really likes to play for some reason. I don't know why. Loves that card.
Some of us are a little less competitive, I guess. That's okay. That's why he's on that side of the screen. We're on this
side. Could you be more condescending? He's in charge of us, right? He could just cut us off the air. That mic, silent.
Yep. Fart noises from that mic only.
My name is Zach Hall.
Alrighty, so on the play, Jacob Hughes probably won't change up his sideboard strategy that much. He's just going to want the defensive cards. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Same with Raheem.
I think that the Voice of Resurgence is actually going to play a key role should Jacob draw them finally. That card, pretty outstanding in a token-based deck, especially against aggressive decks, because you're able to trade off early with a creature and then be left with, a 3/3 plus on your side, especially with things like Lingering Souls, or just ways to populate, multiple tokens in the same turn. Voice of Resurgence, the elemental token, very powerful. I've played with that card just a little bit since the set came out, and I've been very impressed.
Yeah, it's so amazing against any kind of aggressive deck.
Yeah, and the fact that it doubles as being, stellar against the control decks is important too. You saw earlier against Chiho Yim, his opponent had Voice of Resurgence in his token-based deck, and it wasn't that good. I think that when you're playing a deck where you have a ton of cards that your opponent needs to counterspell or wants to counterspell, that's when Voice of Resurgence is really going to shine, because it's basically just going to be, a 2-mana 2/2 to Fairy.
Right.
And, basically you don't want your opponent to play spells on your turn, and they're not going to, because you're going to be left with a gigantic monster. David McDarby, who we saw earlier, had it alongside Geist of St. Traft, and it's kind of interesting, the combination of Geist of St. Traft plus the Elemental token, because it gets an extra +1/+1 from the Geist of St. Traft's Angel ability, which may be a little overkill, but it's still kind of cool, as well as being able to use Advent of the Worm or Snapcaster Mage to pump the Elemental mid-combat.
Yeah, at instant speed. It's really nice with Snapcaster because it's only 2 mana, and
right.
They might not play around it.
Yeah. This hand from Jacob Hardy I don't think is very good. It's Temple Garden, Gavany Township, and a bunch of big spells, so he's going to toss that one back. Raheem taking a look at his opener, and he's going to keep.
Yeah, Raheem looking pretty comfortable here. I bet you his opener is not too shabby.
Yeah.
I think Jacob Hardy needs to get a little more focused here. Maybe drop the shades over his eyes.
Yeah. Do Poker Pro style.
Exactly.
Just
prevent Raheem from getting any reads on him.
Those are probably super reflective though, and we'll just show Raheem's whole hand.
Yeah.
So.
Probably. So,
you're not allowed to do that.
So Jacob Hardy looking for a little better draw, looking for a Lingering Souls, looking for a Voice of Resurgence, like you said. That's the key. That's really what he wants.
Yeah, in a lot of matchups, Voice of Resurgence is basically a 2/2 version of Doom Traveler, but Doom Traveler is very good against aggro decks. So, people were saying that, yeah, he's just a, Doom Traveler, but he's not. He's a Doom Traveler that makes a bigger token, has a bigger power and toughness so that he can actually fight larger creatures in combat on the first go-around. And he just has this added clause of if your opponent's playing a blue deck, he's just insane.
Yeah.
So, looks like he's got a couple lands, a Virtue, and a Voice.
Perfect.
So, I know, 3 lands, and I think his last card's a Lingering Souls, so this hand looks spicy.
Yeah, that's exactly what he wants. Voice plus a 3-mana.
I don't know if we could have sculpted a better 6-card hand, to be honest.
No, perfect.
Yeah. So, it's unlikely he'll want to trade Voice with a Gravecrawler. He might save it for something later on, but if Raheem doesn't have a follow-up zombie, which he just drew a Gravecrawler, just trading here and making a guy would be pretty sweet. So,
wow. So
he decides to do it to slow him down a little bit. If Raheem's second land comes into play tapped, he's not going to play 2 Gravecrawlers this turn, which it looks like he has Guildgate, and that's exactly what happens.
Wow,
So
these Rakdos Guildgates are really crimping
taking
Raheem's
their
style.
toll.
They are. I would cut the Rakdos Lord of Riots from my deck and the Guildgates, I think.
Yeah.
That's
so,
just me.
We have a Lingering Souls, which is going to grow this elemental token to a 3/3, present a very good clock for Jacob, and now he's actually just willing to take 2 from the Gravecrawler more than likely because his life total is high. He has a lot of gas in hand, and he just really wants to race. And he has the Intangible Virtue, which is coming down next turn. If he draws a land, it's likely he's going to play that along with a flashback on Lingering Souls and just have a flying army as well as a 6/6 Vigilance Elemental.
Yeah, just so impressive here. The Intangible Virtue is going to be a backbreaker next turn.
Yeah, assuming he draws a land, it's possible he could just flashback Lingering Souls before he plays the Virtue, just because he wants to make sure he gets maximum damage in with the Virtue on the turn afterwards. So.
Right.
All right, Messenger coming down, putting Jacob to 14 since he did take a shock from his Godless Shrine early on. And not a land. Voice of Resurgence, not so bad either.
Nope, it still leaves him with multiple 2-drops. So if he draws a land next turn, he'll still be able to play 2 spells. So
right.
Not the worst draw.
You're right. I would be very happy playing a Voice of Resurgence here, since that'll kind of put Raheem in a spot where Raheem in a spot where he doesn't really want to attack, because it'll just give Jacob another gigantic elemental, especially because that looming Lingering Souls is going to make them so much bigger.
Right. The Voice is it's amazing on offense. It's amazing on defense. It's just
amazing on offense is pretty strong.
Wow.
It's just Grizzly Bears.
Well,
it's way better on defense.
Yeah, you might be right. Here we go. Oh, it is the Virtue.
All right, so that's not a bad play. So now we have a 4/4 elemental and 2/2/2 flyers. So it's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage, putting Raheem to 9. And he basically can't attack next turn with Gerald's Messenger unless he has a follow-up blocker. And even then, he's just in chump block mode for the rest of the game.
Right. He needs to draw some sort of instant speed spell. That way he can attack with both his creatures.
Is Swamp an instant speed spell? Because he drew a Swamp.
Not sure that it is.
All right. Well, he decides to attack anyway, because YOLO.
Game 3 YOLO.
All right. So this is actually, I think, a bad block. He's putting his 4/4 onto the Gerald's Messenger, but if Raheem has a removal spell for one of the Lingering Souls tokens, he gets to kill the Soul token, and the Elemental. So he's draining, dealing basically 4 total damage to Jacob after the 2 damage from the Gravecrawler, playing the one out of the graveyard, and man, he better have a follow-up. Pillar of Flame.
Okay.
Oh, he missed it. If he Pillar of Flames a Spirit, he kills both of them. Yeah, and again, these are a lot of interactions that are fairly complicated. Like having to think that, yeah, the elemental token's going to get shrunk when another creature dies, so if I kill that one, it'll be a 3/3 with 3 damage on it. A lot of times after combat, people just forget that things have damage on them.
Right, the damage does go away till the end of the turn. So Jacob Hardy left with 2 spirits instead of the one he should have.
Right. Well, to be fair, Jacob probably should just block the Gravecrawler anyway, but...
Yeah.
Or, sorry, yeah, the Gravecrawler. I was thinking something else. All right, so gonna take 2. Flashback Lingering Souls. Putting him at 8. So, a series of fortunate draws from Raheem might be able to actually get him back in the game. Although he is facing 8 power with the Flyers. There might not be like a draw that he has like left in his deck. I don't know what's in his hand, though, so it's kind of hard to see. if he had Pillar Flamed the token, though, or the Spear token instead, you know, he would have taken 2 less damage last turn, been at 7, only been facing 6 power with the flying, and been in a much better position.
Right.
But now it looks like
He has Aristocrat in his hand, which doesn't really do a heck of a lot.
I mean, it blocks 2 of the 8, and you still take 6. So looks like this game's going to go to Jacob.
Raheem should turn all his creatures sideways anyways, though. Maybe Jacob messes up. Maybe he blocks too much, blocks more than he needs to, and you squeak one more turn out.
The problem is that if he turns all his guys sideways, the Voice Resurgent token's going to leave him with an Elemental,
right?
And that Elemental is going to be pretty big. And tapping both his red sources here, a bit of a mistake because now he can't even bluff a potential Pillar Flame for the next, or for a post-combat effect. But it looks like he just knows he's dead and doesn't really know what to do to try to put himself in a position for Jacob to make a mistake, which is reasonable.
Yep, always play it out till the end, especially in Game 3. No reason not to. Maybe.
Dude, sometimes you want to go get lunch.
Yeah, okay. that's reasonable.
I've definitely conceded a Game 3 when I wasn't 100% dead, just because I wanted to go get lunch. It's fine.
The call of the stomach.
Yeah, man.
It's tough.
For me, it's the call of Skybreaker, but you know.
Retraced. So 4 coming into Jacob. He'll take it since Raheem is tapped out. He can afford
I probably
to.
would have blocked with a Voice Resurgence, honestly. I mean, maybe Tragic Slip was like a concern, but here comes a Sorin for overkill.
Yep, this makes it so any 2 Lingering Souls tokens will do it instead of 3.
Yep.
So he doesn't lose to Tragic Slip.
Yeah. So yeah, if Raheem did have Tragic Slip here, he wasn't necessarily dead because he could sack Gravecrawler, Tragic Slip one, and block another one. So.
Right.
But now that definitely just puts the nail in the coffin. So.
Yep, there's the handshake. Jacob Hardy on him all the 6, Game 3.
Are we getting a second match? Okay, so we should be having another match in a second, but we'll break down this game real quick.